Hi everyone. Just wanted to make a quick video to update you on some of the things to do with the O-C uh, features within the website that I've been improving and fixing over the last day or so. Firstly, I'll just go through the feature that I have fixed that David pointed out the other day. I'd like to mention also that throughout this video I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'm keen on what we think about some of the ideas for new improvements that we could make to really improve this O-C feature on the website. Basically, as I've been working more with histories, I've just, my understanding has grown a bit more about what might be good to look at on these O-C plots. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and perhaps you'd be good enough to give me your opinion on those. But let me start off then with this thing that was fixed. I'd already mentioned this in an email today. Here's a HS2231, and the other day I took an observation of this star on a secondary. I only managed to capture the secondary minimum, and so when David added that point by hand, it caused a problem, and now you can see here's the point, and it's looking correct. It was miles off, and the reason was that the code, as I've mentioned, the code was when you look at the data point, here it is. My code was actually rounding off the 0.5 at the end, so it just wasn't correct. So as you can see, there are already other points. If you look down here, here's another one. Here's another secondary. Now that came up from the upload of the initial block of data, and that the issue was only to do with adding a new point by hand here. So that's fixed, and you can also see I've added this type column which wasn't there before. I've added a type a field in the database to store whether it's a secondary or a primary, and the system automatically marks the data point as an S or a P depending on whether it's got a 0 at the end or a 0.5 at the end. And so it's possible for me, and here's the first question perhaps, would it be useful to, on the O-C, would it be useful to have a feature saying plot only primary eclipses, for example? I wondered whether that might be a useful thing now that we can discriminate, or now that the website can discriminate between primary and secondaries. That's my first question. But anyway, this is the just to show you that has been fixed. I'm going to shut this down, and I'm going to move on now to show you some another new feature and ask you a few more questions. So I'm actually running my local site here because I've prepared a demo on my database only, without messing around with the one on the web. But the code is the same. It's just that as you'll see, I've changed some of the figures to illustrate a point. So this is looking at the O-C plot for HL or Regai. Now I've chosen this because this is the one that we were been talking about in the email recently, where David and I have been messing around with the model from, and here I can't pronounce the name, Huan, the Chinese gentleman and his team, who have proposed a third body with a sine, with a periodic wave, in the ephemeris. And what I've done is I've actually put his linear and his quadratic ephemeris figures in here, and this is what they look like when they get plotted on our website. So my next question is, would we want a way of somehow adding a model into the website so that we can have those nice sort of sine waves that we see on David's emails, where he shows us the model currently from whatever research group, and it shows how the data is either keeping to that model or it's digressing from that, diverging from that model. So that's my next question. But what I want to show you now is here we can see the linear and the quadratic, and you can see that our our points here at the top right are miles off the model, which is actually a sine wave down here, which you can't see because we don't represent it on the website. Okay, so what I've done now is, that we've always had, or we have had, a recompute regression And what this did, and what it still does, is it completely recomputes a linear and a quadratic regression using all of the data that we have in the database for this star. Now, the linear and the quadratic epochs that I'm currently using, they are fixed and stored in the database against that star, and they get there from the initial upload from the spreadsheet. And there isn't any way, apart from re-uploading a spreadsheet, to change those epochs and those periods, etc., those parameters. And that's intentional because as we add data, we don't want to keep adjusting those parameters, because we're not going to see how we are diverging away from the model that we have uploaded. However, the recompute regression button, what that does for a living is it does recompute the parameters on the fly, and I'm just clicking it now, and it shows you what the recomputed figures are, and also what the recomputed chi-squareds are for the linear and the quadratic. But it's look at the difference. We're now looking at recomputed residuals using the brand new recomputed set of figures, and so we go back to the O-C, you'll see quite a difference from the one that we've got stored in the database. So the new feature, by the way, is the fact that the recompute regression screen, what it used to do was just show you these figures. What I'm now doing is I'm replotting them as well. They're not stored anywhere, they're just calculated on the fly and plotted on the fly. So if we were to add 2 or 3 more observations in the next couple of months, these figures might become fractionally different because of the recomputation of the parameters. So I like this feature, I think it's useful, and I mean, now having the ability to actually view the charts, I think is a new, I just want to bring to your attention, this is a new feature which we didn't have. However, going back to my next question, and I think this is perhaps the biggest feature I think could be very useful, is how about if we have the ability to store in the database more than one set of parameters from different models. For example, we might want Kilkenny 2003, and Donahue 2006, and Zhang from 2009. We might want to select between different ephemeris calculations from different papers and see what they look like with the current set of data. So what that would mean me doing would be, instead of just storing one set of values for HL or Reguy, I would allow us to enter a set of parameters and give it a name, and then I would store that in a one-to-many relationship in the database. And so as we add more and more, what there would be a drop down, a selection where you could drop down a list and say, now show me Zhang, now show me Kilkenny, and you could flick between the different sets of residuals, and they'd have names, and it'd be very clear, what we'd see in the titling would be residuals, and it would have a bracket and the name of the model that we're using. I just wondered how you felt about that. The reason why I'm making a video to talk about these things is because it just would take ages for me to type it all out, and I just wanted to show you the new feature, the recompute regression and the correction on the secondary minima, and ask you these questions. Okay, so thanks for watching, and dare say we'll be discussing this later. Thank you. Bye bye.